He kōna I purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
The Electoral Commission is working to resolve data entry errors in the general election official results. It saw hundreds of votes wrongly assigned across 3 voting places.
That was TVNZ's Matty McLean on The Breakfast Show after revelations of errors at some polling stations in last month's election, exposing the Electoral Commission's Chief Electoral Officer, Carl Lacane, to awkward questions like this one.
My gosh, how did this go so wrong?
Look, we're really disappointed. We missed these in our checks, and I want to apologise.
A review eventually found that in the end, no electorate contests were materially affected by those errors. However, that could have been the case in some electorates where the results were decided by a handful of votes, and some could yet be decided in recounts that really do depend on the votes cast being counted properly. And just days later, Carl Lacane was back on The Breakfast Show to face more awkward questions from TVNZ's Anna Burns-Francis.
Another set of mistakes. Can you still be confident in our electoral vote counting and record process?
Look, I'm incredibly frustrated that our quality assurance checks didn't pick up these data entry errors.
It was the New Zealand Herald which first revealed earlier this month those problems and sparked that independent review. And this week, one of the paper's columnists, former politician Richard Prebble, said that a judicial review was in order now because he said there are reasons to doubt the result of the 2023 election. And it wasn't the vote counting that worried him so much as the possibility of fraudulent votes cast by people who registered on election day, while other political journalists pointed out that Richard Prebble didn't really mention any evidence in the Herald of actual voting fraud. And as it was the same paper which revealed the actual vote counting irregularities, because their reporters checked rigorously, publishing urgent claims of apparently imagined irregularities, serious enough to undermine elections, is even more incongruous. Now fast forward to Wednesday this week on TVNZ's Breakfast, and Anna Burns-Francis was back talking about this.
Mass voting fraud did occur.
But this time she wasn't talking about the general election, but the vote for Bird of the Century. And the fraud she was on about was instigated by the media overseas, and the organisers here actually conspired with foreign media outlets to game the system and fix the result that offshore media interests wanted, as we'll hear in a minute. Now, the annual Bird of the Year poll run by Forest and Bird, of which Bird of the Century was an offshoot, is essentially a media stunt anyway, but TVNZ Breakfast was pretty amped to be able to announce it live just before the 8 a.m. news on Wednesday, like this.
New Zealand's Bird of the Century is the Pūteki-teki.
John Oliver will be thrilled.
It is John Oliver running interference.
But at the same time on RNZ National, Morning Report didn't exactly pump up the volume quite so much with their live announcement.
Hi there, Ellen. Welcome to the program. Should we get straight to us? Tell us which bird won.
Kia ora, Ingrid. The winner is the Pūteki-teki.
I'm feigning surprise here.
And the reason Ingrid Hipkiss was not in a state of suspense there was the much-hyped campaign for the Pūteki-teki, run by the US-based British comedian John Oliver. Now, he bought billboards urging people to vote for the Lord of the Wings, as he called the contest, in many countries around the world, and even appeared on other talk shows in the US, dressed as the bird, to encourage offshore fans to vote. And on his own show, Last Week Tonight, he rebutted criticism of him, aired in the media here, for sticking his beak in.
That campaigner for the Kiwi that you saw earlier, who told a news outlet he doesn't even like New Zealand, to be honest. Anytime we feature on his show, it's so he can laugh at us with the butt of his jokes, and he's doing it again. And look, yeah, I am doing it again. Yeah, I am. But it is not because I don't like you. It's because I f***ing love you.
But is that feeling mutual? Well, not for RNZ's Corin Dan, it seems, on Morning Report last Wednesday.
It's hard not to like John Oliver and have a bit of a laugh, but, you know, to quote Wayne Brown, it's bollocks, really, isn't it? There's no way the Pūteki-teki is the bird of the century. When you think about all the effort that goes into this competition over the years and all the birds, this just seems extraordinary. But anyway, it was a good laugh.
And some of Corin Dan's listeners didn't feel the same way, though on Morning Report, the Pūteki-teki had the last call.
I mean, I love John Oliver too. I just think, it's just it just doesn't sit right with me. I have to be honest.
And this person points out that the century is only 23 years old, so maybe a lot can happen over the next 77 years. Maybe another Bird of the Century competition. Here is the Bird of the Century.
The Australasian crested grebe. Pūteke teke.
So we're the Morning Report co-hosts there, overthinking a bit of fun that might, in the end, benefit our birds? Or was this a case of the media being led by the nose and even manipulated by offshore media? Those are questions Hayden Donnell put last Wednesday to former RNZ stalwart Lynn Freeman, who's now Forest and Birds Communication Manager and who was heavily involved in how that Bird of the Century competition played out in the media here and overseas.
I've been asked so many times today about political interference. But people are forgetting that he's very open about the reason he's doing this, Like our little contest is about advocacy and just getting people to take action and think about our birds. And even if all they do is vote, it's doing something, it's learning, it's conversation. When he's commenting on the fact that America finds it very easy with its wealth and influence to interfere in elections in other countries. He said it a few times. I think people don't quite understand that really is at the heart of this. He's also helping us, and he's really been engaged with us, and we're terribly grateful. He hasn't imposed himself on it. He could have done this without our permission. It's all been really friendly and enjoyable to work with him. But he's making a point.
Yes.
And we're making a point.
Apart from calling us Australia at one point on the Jimmy Fallon show, I suppose.
Potato, Mark. Potato.
Wow. You are deep in the pocket of big John Oliver
No,
here.
I was actually a bit offended. I wasn't myself offended at that point, but he did correct himself pretty quickly.
So a bit of a dual mandate here. He's doing a satirical thing about US election interference, and you're raising awareness for our birds. But for us, of course, we have this kind of attachment to this vote. It actually means quite a lot to us. And maybe the Pūteke teke wouldn't have won without John Oliver's help here. So is it robbing us of a chance to really to crown our real bird of the century?
I don't believe so. In fact, I have seen the Pūteke teke in Lake Wanaka. They're actually a really beautiful bird, and they're in real trouble. And this is again the point of Bird of the Century. Like, if you remember the rock wren last year, most people will never ever see them. They're tiny, they're in impossible places. And suddenly, for a few days, we were able to talk about the rock wren, what a remarkable little bird it is, nuggety little bird, and the threats to its future. Because
it's almost a bit like the kiwi came second, but we already have lots of efforts underway to conserve the kiwi. Lots of people know about those.
We do, and we love them. And I mean, I think any of the 76 birds that we had this year, they're all winners. And I guess that's the message I'm trying to get across. The campaign managers for the kiwi, the campaign managers for the care, the second and third place getters, they just went hard. They got more than 12,000 votes each of them, only about 900 votes between them. I love the energy, and we know that people care, and we know that genuinely there are people who are upset. But it could have been, if you didn't vote for the top bird, you were always going to be disappointed. And it's that passion.
Are those campaign managers, or are they gutted that they put all this work in and then got absolutely steamrolled?
I think there'll be
by John Oliver.
Only 290,000 votes in it, mate.
Yeah, okay.
It was close.
Good effort.
I think they've both actually, had time on John Oliver's show, which is pretty good to talk about, their birds and have the profile. Something like more than 190 countries. Even I didn't know that until we crunched the numbers, and we've had votes from. So the conversations are happening in media and in countries and in households. I love the fact, actually, in a way, that people feel so involved in this, that they're upset that their birds are not official Bird of the Century. But I think most of the birds in the top 10 actually are former Birds of the Year. So they've also had their time in the sun and been celebrated and enjoyed and had conversations about them. So please, everybody, take it in the spirit with which we meant it, and take action and help, because our birds are really, really in strife. So many threats to them, honestly. Look, there's no question that this, just as it's a record number of votes, it will be a record donations for us. They're still being toted up. To be honest, we've kind of been really focused on getting the votes right. And that's why we're, a couple of days later than we meant to be.
Can you give us a bit of a backstage, kind of a behind-the-scenes view? What was it like dealing with John Oliver's team and his network?
So, this has been an interesting secret to hold. It was all on. They approached us. We said go for it. The writer's strike happened in Hollywood. So for a few months there, this was off the table. We didn't know until the writer's strike was resolved whether this would happen. So it was really touch and go. So that was tense. I don't think we had any idea how full on John Oliver and his team were going to go for it. The costumes and the puppets and the billboards kind of blew us away. But I think the spirit of it has been good. And when he says he loves New Zealand, I believe him. And when he says he actually loves our birds, I believe him. And he's been very supportive of us. I'd love to say this was part of a plan that we had from the start of the year, and every step has been planned out. That is not the case. This has been a roller coaster for us. I think we're surprised at where it's led us, and it has been overwhelming for a really tiny organisation. I think the weirdest question I was asked in many interviews today was, had we thought about manipulating the result?
Cutting out 290,000. Yeah, I thought you might disqualify some ballots or something, but you
we
didn't.
Disqualified several 100,000 were disqualified for being fraudulent or unvalidated. So when we say that there were 380,000, 350, 380,000 validated votes, almost as many again we had to get rid of. And that's why it takes time, because, one person, as you say, Hayden, voted for 40,000, 40,000 votes for the rock hopper. Cute hipster penguin, love it to bits. So that takes time to go through every single vote. But most of them were entered with open hearts, and people really thought about their birds of the century, our New Zealanders. Record number of New Zealanders voted. Thank you for every single vote. And to be honest, if John Oliver came back and said, he'd like to support, a different bird or the same bird for Bird of the Year, we wouldn't say no. That would be madness. I mean, we...
Are other US TV hosts, other famous people trying to get on the bandwagon as well?
No, I don't think they will, although Jimmy Fallon was having a very funny time, wasn't he? That was one of the funniest things I saw when he was interviewing John Oliver in the Pūteke suit. Oh, my God, I love that sense of humour or budget to be part of this wild ride. But I suspect next year we're not going to be courting overseas. He came to us. I'm very happy when it's grassroots, and we simply have campaign managers all around the motu, going out there and doing their thing, whatever their budget, and just their enthusiasm and love for the birds that they really care so deeply for. That's the payoff for Bird of the Year / Bird of the Century.
Thanks, Lynn, and also congratulations on running an election with a clear winner.
No judicial review required.
No negotiating with the Kia.
Over bird feed.
We've got it.
And I look out for John Oliver's victory dance, I imagine. He's collecting material as we speak, and that'll come out on Monday evening. I'm looking forward to it.
That was Lynn Freeman, Communications Manager at Forest and Bird, who was heavily involved in how that Bird of the Century competition played out in the media here and overseas. And there she was talking to Mediawatch's Hayden Donnell on Midweek Mediawatch with Mark Leishman on Nights last Wednesday here on RNZ National.